What's up guys, welcome to Simple Chinese. My name is Mike Lin. In today's video I want to talk about basically the tips for Chinese starters. So if you first learning Chinese, what are the things you want to look for, right? So the first tip I would say, this one is kind of for general, like not only Chinese but pretty much all languages. Okay, is to really learn the vocab. Okay, vocab. Like it's like a cliche, right? Talking about vocab, but like by far, like I would say, vocab is one of the most important part in pretty much any languages. Because like the more you know about the word, the more words you know, right? Obviously, the more you can understand when people talk about certain things. So vocab is, I would say, the most fundamental thing in any languages. It's still like in the break, right? If you have the foundation, you're able to start to build houses and start to go up, things like that. So that's why having a vocab, okay, is super important. Okay, think about it. Imagine if you go to a different country, right? Let's say, for example, me, when I first came to America, I didn't know a lot of English back then, but at least I have to know like what is bathroom, right? Like what is food? How do you say? Excuse me, hello, goodbye, things like that. So that's why vocab is by far the most important thing. So in this case, make sure to spend more time just learning vocab. Okay, maybe try to find some way to be creative. You learn vocab, whatever, flashcards, whatever is easier for you, right? Okay. So make sure vocab is the most important thing here. Okay, and then the second tip also applies to pretty much all languages. Will be the grammar. So let's also very important, grammar. Okay, I mean makes sense, right? I mean vocab is basically the dots, right? If you have the dots, at least you know what's going on. And then what grammar does is connect all those together, right? So that's what grammar does. Basically makes a sentence. But I believe for starters, from the most if you don't know anything, obviously vocab is the first thing to learn. Okay, and then slowly improve your grammar in the future, right? And then the third thing here also applies to pretty much any languages, will be environment. Okay, environment. Okay, so having yourself surrounded by all the native speakers or whatever the books, the languages on the computer, whatever you have, surround yourself with whatever language you want to learn. So for example, if you want to learn Chinese, right, make sure you have a lot of Chinese friends who can help you with Chinese, or maybe just simply go to China if you can have a chance to, maybe for vacation, whatever, or study abroad. Go there for like half a year. They're constantly speaking Chinese. That really helps you just by pretty much anything, right? Like every single aspect, listening, reading, speaking, and writing, all these things. So having an environment, I would say, is probably really the one of the most important thing. So if you can have these three things, right, constantly learning vocab and also learning grammar, also in the same time surround yourself in an environment where there's all the native speakers or whatever language you want to learn, so you're constantly practicing, you kind of forced to practice, right? So that's the three, I would say, pretty much general tips for really any languages. Okay, and then the fourth one here, I would say, applies specifically to Chinese. Okay, that will be pinyin. Okay, so what pinyin is basically the how you pronounce the Chinese character. So for example, we'll always use this good example, 你, right? 你 simply means you in Chinese, right? And then the pinyin will be 你. So every single Chinese character, there's pinyin associated with it, which is this one right here, right? So one of the biggest thing, and you always talk about accents, right? You have like a Chinese accent, you have American accent, blah blah accent. So if you really want to get as close, to closest to the native speaker, in Chinese, learning, really mastering pinyin is very important. Okay, the most common mistakes people make, especially beginners, will be the tonality here, the tone, right? So we have 4 different tones. These are 4 different tones. So make sure you have to master whatever the letter here, the initials, and the finals. So I have all these. I talked about everything about pinyin in the past few videos. If you haven't watched them, make sure to go back and check them out. Okay. So, but really remember how to say pinyin. Okay. The initials plus finals and then the tones. Figure out the tones will really help you pronounce each single Chinese character correctly. Okay. So unlike English or Spanish, Spanish is like whatever. I mean, I've took some Spanish courses, so I can know a little bit. Whatever they write, whatever they pronounce, right? English, some of them are kind of same, but in Chinese, obviously, it's completely different, right? Words by itself. Pinyin is also a system by itself. So there's really pretty much no association, or very little association. So make sure to learn pinyin. Okay, master tonality. Make sure master tonality. If you ever wonder, if you always struggle, like why can't I say the good Chinese? Like why can't I say the perfect Chinese? Like why is that sound so different compared to other people? Or like I'm just terrible at speaking, right? Figure out the tonality really helps. Okay, so it's like for example, it's like learning English. We want to really speak English, correctly. I think, at least in my understanding, I'm still learning right now. Obviously, is to say the vowels, the A-E-I-O-U. Focus on those words, characters in the word to really pronounce them, to be able to say English, correctly. Same thing with Chinese tone. Okay, I cannot emphasize more here. Make sure you spend more time, understand the tones, and then practice how to say the tones. Make sure whenever you choose any kind of pinyin, you're able to say the tones correctly. Okay, super important. Okay, and then the last tip I can give you, okay, will be the stroke orders. Number 5 here, the stroke orders. Okay, so pinyin applies to speaking, right? Stroke orders basically apply to the writing part. Okay, so usually if you think about a language, there's how many parts you have with listening, right? And with speaking, with reading, and then with writing, right? So the pinyin pretty much covers the speaking part and the listening part. So if you master pinyin, you're not only able to pronounce them correctly, but you also understand people, much more, a lot easier, right? So pinyin, it covers the first two, which is speaking and listening, and then stroke orders. That only kind of covers the writing, but also I guess also helps you a little bit with your reading, right? Because obviously, if you can recognize the word quickly, which is the vocab in this case, you'll be able to, memorize it and able to pronounce it quickly, to be able to really flow, say whatever you have to read, whether they have to read, right? So stroke order will only, I would mostly apply to the writing, right? So if you see a Chinese character, let me see what other maybe like difficult. Let's say this one, my last name, okay? My last name is Lin. Well, Chinese would be Lin, right? How you say it would be, how you write it is this, right? If you just simply look at this word, it's kind of like a picture, right? It's kind of like a picture. And if you try to draw the picture, it can be very difficult sometimes. So if you just memorize every single Chinese character as a picture, it might be very difficult for you to write. And if you don't really know the stroke order, which is how you start a character and how you end it, the word. If you don't know the stroke orders, it will be very difficult for you to actually write it down. Okay, so basically knowing the stroke orders is kind of like a key to really open the right way or the right path. Just makes your life a lot easier. In writing Chinese. Okay, so in this case, the stroke order for this one would be, if you just kind of look at my stroke order, will be first, right, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, right? Things like that. But if you don't know the stroke order, maybe you start with the left or right first. Maybe you want to do like these two first, right? Things like that. Like it won't really look the same or not as good, and it's complicated sometimes, So that's what stroke order is, right? Or maybe let me see if I can give you another example that's much harder. Okay, so this book is called Integrated Chinese, and that's a character book. So I have a link down below that gives you the textbook, but also obviously you can find other workbooks or character books online as well on the Amazon. So I'm really highly encourage you to get that. Really gonna help you learn Chinese. Like really learning how to write the characters really help you in the future. Just like that, right? Okay, so this was great. Good, 整, okay. Let me see here, yeah. So you can tell this word here is a lot harder than maybe this word. And if you don't know the stroke order of this word, then it can really be a disaster, right? If you try to write this word, be like, whoa, okay, let me start at the bottom first, maybe, right? Write that first, and then maybe here, like this one, how you write this one, maybe like this, because you just don't know how to write them properly, so you won't look as good, okay? Or maybe this word here is say so, sorry, the word so here, so means walk. If you don't know how to write this one, maybe like, okay, that's a wrong stroke word. Maybe like, oh, okay, maybe do this first, right? And then just won't look the same. Okay, so make sure. Let me just kind of go back to recap very quick here. 5 important things. Okay, having the vocab down. Okay, spend more time memorize or whatever you want to call it. Learning the vocab, very very important. Like it's a no-brainer right here. Okay, just simply spend more time. That's why it's simple. And the reason why I call it simple Chinese is because really all these things are not hard to do. You just have to spend a lot of time, doing it. That's all, right? So spend a lot of time in vocab, okay? A lot of time on grammar, okay? Grammars will connect the dots. And the environment, okay? Having a Chinese friend, or maybe if you're a guy, go talk to a Chinese girl and get a Chinese girlfriend, or vice versa for girls, I don't know. Whatever is easier for you to learn Chinese, right? And then pinyin, basically helps you pronounce and helps you, listen to other people say. And then especially pinyin will be the tonality, which is for example, the letter here pinyin here right, and then right, and then okay, going down, fourth one. So learning the pinyin, okay, and then last one here, stroke orders, okay, how to write a word really helps you write it, makes life a lot easier. So I think that's the 5 tips that I can give in Chinese for starters. If you really master these 5, you're pretty much done. Like that's all you have to really understand. Like if you can understand the vocab, understand the grammar, having the right environment, understand reading pinyin correctly in the stroke order, you literally kind of live in China basically, and then you will do very very well. Okay. So that's all about this video. If you have any questions, you can leave the comment below. Or you can email me at xlmasterminds@gmail.com. So everything's down below. You can check them out. All the book, all the links you need to know. So that's all. See you next video. Bye bye.